Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Dave from mygunvalues.com, and today we're going to discuss a fairly interesting Walther P38. Little background on the P38. P38 began development in the middle 1930s. The reason being is Nazi Germany was looking for a cheaper alternative to the Luger. The Luger, while they loved it, it was a classic firearm, it was expensive to machine and produce, so they wanted something that could produce more quickly and cheaper. So in about 1938-39, the first of the Walthers began rolling off the line, and the Walthers they all have the same general profile, very, very similar barrel lengths. Nothing earth-shattering. What makes the Walther different is the markings or lack of same right up here. Now we're going to insert during this a few still photos as we go along and cover the various points of the Walther to discuss, some of the things that make it more or less valuable depending. As always, we're promoting here a website that does track firearms values, so we want to discuss with you some of those attributes. Okay, this one was sold as a P38 AC over 42. As soon as I took one look at it, I knew that the seller was way off on his information. And the reason I know, and again, this is where we're going to insert the still photos, all the markings on these, the BYFs, the CYQs, the ACs, they were all here. What all those markings were was an attempt by Nazi Germany to hide who was producing the gun. Each factory had its own code. They were thinking that if they could hide who was producing the gun, then they wouldn't necessarily go bomb. The bombers wouldn't come over and bomb them or sabotage them or whatever. Didn't work, but that was the thought behind it. So the code for Walther was AC. There were some other things that do identify this, however, as a World War II Nazi-era Walther. Again, on the still picture, I'm going to point to it here on the close-up. I've got a little Q-tip right here I'll use. Right there, right behind the serial number, you'll see the Nazi Eagle over a 359. That also identifies this as a Walther firearm. This is where this one gets really, really interesting. And it's probably one of the reasons I picked it up, just because I enjoy the weird and the unusual. There are no markings on this slide save for the serial number. So that's what really makes this unusual. So as I want you to contemplate that, and I'm going to cover some of the just basics of it, and then I will come back to right there at the slide how everything but the serial number is not there. All we've got is the serial number there. So exposed hammer, open top slide covering the top of the barrel, the breech end, composite grips, plastic grips, whatever you want to call them. One of the weird features, and I know this is not going to show up on camera, but right at the back here is a little cocking indicator, and just to for those of you who are safety conscious, notice the magazine's out and empty. We'll go ahead and rack her open. She's empty. So anyway, bring her closed. There's a little pin there that shows if it's cocked. You could look at that at a glance and see if it had been cocked, if there was a round in the chamber. Had a thumb safety up here on the top right. I much would have preferred to see that safety aimed backwards. It's hard for me to reach it. You know, to me, it's out of the way being up there. Magazine release. Again, magazine's empty. Magazine release is this little clip here that you pull back to release it. You've got the lanyard loop, kind of a rectangular shaped piece formed into the bottom of the left-hand grip. You could drift the front and rear sights for a lateral sight movement, but there was no adjustment for elevation, nor should there be most of the time. These, if they were used at all, were meant for use by officers at close range. There's a lot of videos out there that show how to take one of these down. The basic gist is remove the magazine, lock it back, bring it forward, and then you bring it back to right about there. You can remove the locking pin and take the whole top off. I'm not going to do it. If you need to disassemble one of these, please, you know, look at one of the other guys who've taken the time to put that video up there. It's not what we're about. So let's get back to why I found this interesting. The lack of markings in this case really had me pretty much thinking I know what this is, but if anybody has the information I don't have, hey, I'm all ears. So what we've got here, again, we know that this slide and this frame left the factory together. We've got matching serial numbers on the frame and the slide, but we don't have any identifying marks. One other thing that really kind of identifies where this pistol came from, we think. If you look at it, you'll notice all the parts have basically the same finish. You know, it's really the same finish throughout on all the parts, everything. That leads me to believe that this is a Russian captured weapon. Russia captured a lot of Walthers when they overran the plant. This one may have been issued and captured from a German soldier because it did get the serial numbers complete, but it never got the manufacturer's stamping. I really believe this one was probably at the factory when the Russians captured it and the Nazis abandoned it because of the lack of stampings here. What Russia did with all of those is they took those Walthers back, they set them, you know, they took everything back because the war wasn't over yet at this point. You know, let's capture it, let's use it. Well, then they all got put in storage. In the 1960s, these pistols were taken out, cleaned up, refinished, and imported into the U.S. Now, what makes this gun unusual is most of those carry importer's marks on the gun. Gun Control Act of 1968 said that you had to, if you were the importer, you know, you were you were the company bringing the gun into the U.S. from abroad. You had to put your name on the gun. Interarms would be a popular one. Who else was? Oh, we'll just stick with Interarms for the moment. There's no stamping on this of any kind. So if this was that type of a gun, it came back from it came in before the Gun Control Act of 1968, or it snuck through. The vast majority of these Russian imports were marked. So this is a supposition on my part. This is a very late production Walther that was captured, probably never issued to a German troop. It got the Nazi Waffen-Amp down here, but it didn't get the identifying marks up here. There are some Nazi pistols known that didn't make it out with their stampings as the war was winding down. They were just trying to get the stuff out the door. So this could have been issued and captured by the Russians after it was carried by an officer also. There's really no way to know how this came to be. This gun, in this condition, it is refinished. Probably on the order of $500, give or take, on a value if you run into one. Again, it takes the 9mm, 9mm Luger, 9mm Parabellum, 9x19, whatever name you want to call it. Takes a standard 9mm cartridge. And I have fired this to some degree. Not a tremendous amount, but I've fired it. It has an issue. This is something else that leads me to believe it's late production and the bugs never got ironed out. When you fire it, at first, it didn't want to lock and hold the slide back. Once I used it, I probably put 50 rounds down the tube. Then the slide started locking back when the magazine was empty. The other thing is, about half the time it comes back, and I've tried it with 4 different kinds of factory ammunition, and this happens with all of them, so I don't think it's an ammunition power problem, is it doesn't always lock the hammer back when it cycles. The hammer comes forward about half the time, and then you either have to fire it double action, or you have to manually cock the hammer if you want to fire it single action. Again, it's empty. So we'll show this. This gun can be fired simply, there's the single action, but it also has a double action pull. A double action pull is really stiff. I don't recommend it for any kind of accurate shooting at anything over about 10 feet, but it's there. Standard open sights, shark's tooth front blade is what a lot of people refer to this shape as. So that's the basics of the Walther P38. We're going to insert some still photos during this video, I guess I should say that different. We have inserted some still photos, and we will continue here as I can finish up on some of the various markings that can be found on Walthers, so you know what you're looking for. But to find one with no markings here other than a serial number is what makes this gun a little bit rare and unusual, because the vast majority are marked in this way when they have the Nazi eagle on the frame. Commercial models won't necessarily have these markings, so at first I thought this was a commercial one. Somebody maybe added the Nazi stamp to it, but the more research I did and the more I dug into it, I really believe this to all be genuine. It just rates from right there in that 1945 time period as Walther was being overrun. So, and the magazine, by the way, is 8 rounds. So with that, I hope you learned something with this thing. Just again, we're trying to show you what to look for, what's out there, what you can see on these guns. That way you don't get taken advantage of, because the guys who are selling them don't necessarily know what they are. And as a matter of fact, I had that. I'll tell you this story real quick. I had a friend call me last night, lives right down the road from me. He's going to have to sell some of his guns, ran into some financial problems. He's got a Model 42 Winchester. That's for those of you who don't know, that's a 410 shotgun, 26-inch barrel. And he said, yeah, it's beautiful. It's unmarked. It's barely ever been fired. You know, it's a really valuable gun. I just need you to look at it. So I went down there. He's right, it's 42, but I should back up. He was telling me it was a 42 Deluxe. Deluxe models have checkered grips, checkered foreends. This had no checkering, so it's a standard model. And while the bluing didn't have much wear on the gun, a couple, safe scratches, nothing major, it had a little bit of bluing wear on the tube, so it was fine condition until you got to the buttstock. And the finish on the back half of the buttstock was completely gone. Like it had maybe rode around in a scabbard, or back of a pickup truck or something for a long time, didn't get shot much, but had a lot of bounce around wear on that stock, and it really wasn't worth what he hoped it was. And like he said, he's going to keep it for that amount of money, and I don't blame him. But the guys who are selling it to you don't necessarily know what they have, so you can't necessarily take their word for it. Again, this was advertised as an AC42. It's not an AC42, 42 of course being 1942, because the date code doesn't exist here. So that's all I'm trying to get at is knowledge is power. You want to arm yourself with as much knowledge as you can. So with that note, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you learned something. We will get to shooting these one of these days as soon as I can set up targets without having to put on a frogman suit. So with that note, have a good day. And if you need to get any information, you can check out the website at mygunvalues.com, or you can contact us here through YouTube. Thanks for watching.